Ambassador Hyun-woo sat in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council space station. The room was massive, with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. Representatives from 40 different species sat in a circle, each in their own special chair designed for their body type. Hyun-woo sat in a simple human chair, his hands folded neatly on the table in front of him. Across from him sat the Vrel delegation. The Vrel were large creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms. Their leader, Commander Thaxel, had been speaking for the past 20 minutes. His voice was loud and harsh, echoing through the chamber. "The human claim to the Epsilon mining colonies is laughable," Thaxel said, slamming one of his 4 hands on the table. "Your species is weak. You have been in space for barely 200 years. We have ruled these sectors for thousands of years." Hyun-woo smiled. It was a calm, pleasant smile. He reached for the small thermal container beside him and poured himself a cup of tea. The steam rose slowly into the air. "Commander Thaxel," Hyun-woo said softly, "would you care for some tea? This is a blend from Earth's Korean peninsula. Very calming." Thaxel's eyes narrowed. "I do not want your weak human drink." Of course, Hyun-woo said, nodding gently. "I apologize for the presumption. Please, continue with your presentation." Captain Ji-won sat in the observer section, watching the exchange. She was a military officer, not a diplomat, but she had been ordered to attend these meetings. She wore her uniform neatly pressed, her short hair pulled back. As Hyun-woo offered the tea, she felt a cold chill run down her spine. She knew what that meant. She had grown up on Earth, learned the old ways. When a Korean man offered tea during an argument, when his voice got softer instead of louder, when he started apologizing, that was not weakness. That was a final warning. Ji-won touched her communication device discreetly and sent a coded message to her ship. "Alert status. Begin quiet preparations. The Epsilon colonies belong to the Vrel Concordat by right of strength," Thaxel continued. "If humanity wishes to dispute this, then humanity will learn what strength truly means." Hyun-woo took a sip of his tea. He set the cup down with barely a sound. "Commander, I must express my deep regret that we have failed to communicate our position clearly. This is entirely my fault as a diplomat. Please, allow me to clarify." He pulled out a datapad and displayed a holographic map of the disputed sector. His voice remained soft and pleasant. "The Epsilon colonies were established by human settlers 73 years ago, as documented in Galactic Council records 7734B through 7734Z. Our mining operations have been registered and approved through all proper channels. I have brought copies of all relevant documents should you wish to review them at your convenience." "Documents mean nothing," Thaxel growled. "Power means everything." "I see," Hyun-woo said, still smiling. "Thank you for clarifying your position so directly. I appreciate your honesty. It helps me understand how to proceed." He turned to address the full council. "Honorable representatives, I wish to thank the Vrel delegation for this frank exchange of views. It has been most educational. I propose we adjourn for today and reconvene tomorrow, giving all parties time to consider the matters discussed." The council agreed. As the representatives filed out, Ji-won approached Hyun-woo. "Ambassador," she said quietly, "that tea offering—" "Captain," Hyun-woo interrupted gently, "I believe your ships should conduct routine patrol exercises near the Epsilon sector. For safety purposes, of course." Ji-won nodded. "Of course, Ambassador. Routine exercises." 2 days later, the news came. The Vrel had attacked the mining colony on Epsilon 3. They had launched the assault without warning, overwhelming the small security force stationed there. 300 human civilians were now under Vrel occupation. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives arrived in a panic, shouting about violations of protocol and demands for immediate action. But when Hyun-woo entered the chamber, he was calm. He carried a fresh pot of tea. Thaxel was already there, standing tall and proud. "The Epsilon colonies now belong to the Vrel Concordat. We have taken them by strength, as is our right. If humanity objects, let them try to take them back. Hyunwoo set up his tea service carefully. He poured a cup and took a slow sip. Then he stood and bowed slightly to Thaxel. "Commander Thaxel," he said, his voice even softer than before, "I must first apologize. It seems there has been a terrible misunderstanding. This is entirely my fault. I clearly failed to communicate effectively during our previous discussion." Thaxel laughed. "There is no misunderstanding, human. We are strong. You are weak. It is simple." "Indeed, simplicity is valuable," Hyunwoo agreed. He pulled out his datapad again. "I wish to formally register a complaint with the Galactic Council regarding the unauthorized military action against Epsilon 3. I have prepared a detailed report documenting the incident." He transmitted the report to all council members. It was 40 pages long, meticulously detailed, with timestamps, legal citations, and formal language. "Additionally," Hyunwoo continued, "I would like to invite the Vrel delegation to a series of cultural exchange programs. I believe better understanding between our peoples would prevent such unfortunate incidents in the future. I have prepared a preliminary schedule." The other council members looked confused. The Vrel had just attacked a human colony, and the human ambassador was talking about cultural exchanges. Only a few observers understood. Krillanthe, an insectoid, diplomat from the Hive Collective, had studied human history extensively. He watched Hyunwoo's performance with growing alarm. He had read about human wars, about their history. He knew their patterns. After the session, Krillanthe approached Jiwon in the corridor. "Captain," he said, his translator making his clicking speech understandable, "the ambassador is being very polite." "Yes," Jiwon said. "Too polite." "Yes. This is bad for the Vrel, isn't it?" Jiwon looked at the insectoid diplomat. "When humans get loud and angry, we're just venting emotions. When we get quiet and polite, when we start apologizing and offering tea." She paused. "That's when we've made our decision." "What decision?" Krillanthe asked. "That diplomacy is over," Jiwon said simply. "Now we're just being professional about what comes next." Back in his quarters, Hyunwoo composed another message to Thaxel. It was perfectly polite, filled with formal language and courteous phrases. He apologized again for any misunderstanding. He expressed hope for peaceful resolution. He included detailed legal citations about proportional response under Galactic Council law. He read it over 3 times, making sure every word was correct, every phrase properly respectful. Then he sent it with a delivery confirmation. The message included a precise deadline: 72 hours to withdraw from Epsilon 3 and release all civilians unharmed. G1 received her orders that same hour. Her destroyer group was to move into position near Vrel space. They were to conduct routine exercises. Every weapon system was to be checked and ready. Every crew member was to be at peak readiness. The orders were signed by Admiral Soo-jin herself. They were written in the old formal style, using traditional phrases and honorific language. Ji-won read them and understood. The politeness had begun. The countdown had started. She just hoped the Vrel would realize what that meant before the deadline expired. Captain Ji-won stood at the front of the briefing room. Before her sat representatives from 15 different species, all members of the Galactic Council's Observer Corps. They had been sent to monitor the situation between humanity and the Vrel Concordat. Most of them looked confused. "I've called this briefing," Ji-won began, "because I believe most of you don't understand what is happening right now. You see Ambassador Hyunwoo being polite to the Vrel, and you think humans are being weak. You are wrong." She activated the holographic display. It showed images from human history, old Earth before space travel. "This is called a declaration of war," she said, pointing to an ancient document. "It's from a conflict on Earth hundreds of years ago. See how polite it is? It thanks the other nation for their correspondence. It expresses regret. It uses formal legal language." She scrolled to another document. "This one is from a different war. Same thing. Very polite. Very formal. Very detailed." Krillanthe, the insectoid diplomat, leaned forward. "I don't understand. If they were declaring war, why be polite?" "Because," Ji-won said, "humans learned something long ago. War is terrible. Killing is ugly. So if we must do it, we make it professional. We make it legal. We document everything. We apologize for the necessity. It helps us live with ourselves afterward. She changed the display to show Ambassador Hyunwoo's recent messages to Thaxel. Look at this message. Count the apologies. 5. Count the legal citations. 17. Count the offers for peaceful resolution. 8. This is not weakness. This is a human making sure that when the fighting starts, no one can say we didn't warn them. A feel-it observer, a cat-like being named Ren Shar, spoke up. But your ambassador invited them to cultural exchanges. He's talking about understanding between peoples. Jiwon nodded. Yes, that's what we do. We give every possible chance for peace. We document that we gave those chances. And when someone refuses all of them, when they keep pushing, she paused, then what happens next is on them, not us. We can live with ourselves because we tried everything else first. She pulled up new data on the display. Right now, 70 human warships are moving into position near Vrel space. Every movement has been reported to the Galactic Council with proper advance notice. Every action is legal under Council regulations. We've apologized for any inconvenience our defensive posture might cause to shipping lanes. This is your war fleet? Asked Renshar. This is our polite response, G1 corrected. A war fleet would be much larger. At that moment, a young human entered the room. He bowed slightly to G1. Captain, I apologize for the interruption. I'm Taemin from the Diplomatic Corps. I've been assigned to document all communications and actions for the historical record. G1 felt that cold chill again. The historical record? They were bringing in archivists already. Welcome, Taemin, she said. Please take a seat. You'll want to record this briefing as well. Taemin sat down and pulled out his recording equipment. He looked barely 25 years old, but his eyes were serious and focused. Jiwon continued her presentation. The deadline Ambassador Hyunwoo gave the Vrel expires in 53 hours. I don't believe they will meet it, which means humanity will proceed to what we call a proportional response. What does that mean? Krillinth asked. It means, Jiwon said carefully, that we will respond with exactly the level of force necessary to resolve the situation, not more, not less. We will document every action. We will apologize for any collateral damage. We will offer medical assistance to wounded enemies. We will do everything by the book, and if the Vrel surrender, then we accept immediately, help them rebuild, and never speak of the conflict again. That's also part of being professional. On the screen, she showed recent transmissions from the human fleet. Every ship captain had sent formal notifications of their movements. Every message thanked the Galactic Council for their patience. Every communication expressed hope for peaceful resolution. See? G1 said. We're being very polite. That should terrify the Vrel. Meanwhile, in the Vrel command center on Epsilon 3, Thaxel was reviewing the same messages. His second-in-command, a warrior named Vexthor, stood beside him. The humans continue to send these weak messages, Vexthor said. They apologize and ask for dialogue. They are cowards. Thaxel wasn't so sure anymore. Something about the messages bothered him. They were too polite, too precise, too detailed. The legal citations especially. Why would someone include so many legal references unless they were planning to justify something later? He opened a communication channel to the Vrel homeworld. This is Commander Thaxel. I request reinforcements at Epsilon 3. I believe the human response may be stronger than anticipated. The response came back quickly. Request denied. The Vrel Concordat does not fear weak humans. Hold your position. If they attack, crush them. Thaxel closed the channel. He looked at the 300 human civilians held in the colony's main dome. They were quiet, too quiet. Most species, when taken prisoner, showed fear or anger. These humans just waited, calm and patient. One of them, an older woman named Sun Hee, had even thanked her guards for providing adequate food and water. Thanked them. It made Thaxel uneasy. Back on the Galactic Council station, Colonel Yoonji arrived from Earth. She was Special Forces, trained in operations that most species didn't like to discuss. She went directly to meet with Jiwon and Hyunwoo. Ambassador, she said, bowing formally, I've arrived with my team as requested. We're prepared to assist with any hostage recovery operations that may become necessary. Hyunwoo poured her a cup of tea. Thank you, Colonel. I hope your services won't be needed. But if they are, I trust you understand the importance of professionalism. Of course, Ambassador. Minimal casualties. Maximum precision. Full documentation. Exactly. Yunji accepted the tea and sat down. I've reviewed the colony layout. If we need to go in, we can extract all civilians within 30 minutes. Frail casualties would be limited to military personnel who actively resist. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Hyunwoo said. He said it like he meant it. But his voice was still that soft, polite tone. Jiwon watched the two of them discuss logistics over tea. Everything was so calm, so civilized. Plans for a military operation that could kill thousands, discussed like they were planning a business meeting. That was the human way. Keep it professional. Keep it clean. Keep it documented. Taemin was recording everything. Every word, every plan, every contingency. If fighting happened, there would be a complete record showing that humans had done everything possible to avoid it. Krillinth came to Jiwon's quarters that evening. Captain, I need to understand something. If Ambassador Hyunwoo genuinely wants peace, why is he being so polite? Jiwon thought about how to explain. It's because he does genuinely want peace. But he knows the Vrel won't give it. So he's making sure that when we act, we can live with ourselves. We can say we tried everything. We can say we followed every rule. We can say we gave them every chance. So the politeness is for yourselves, not for the Vrel? Partly. It's also a warning they're not understanding. In human culture, extreme politeness can mean many things. But during conflict, it means one thing. We've made our decision and now we're just being professional about executing it. Should I warn the Vrel? Krillinth asked. You can try, Jiwon said. But I don't think they'll listen. They think politeness equals weakness. They don't understand that for humans it's the opposite. When we're comfortable with someone, we're casual. We joke, we're informal. When we get formal, she shook her head. That's when you should worry. Krillinth left to try anyway. He sent a message to Thaxel, explaining what he had learned about human behavior. The response was dismissive. The humans can be as polite as they wish. It changes nothing. Strength rules the galaxy, not courtesy. 48 hours until the deadline. Human ships continued their routine exercises, moving with perfect precision. Every movement was reported. Every action was legal. Every message was polite. And with each passing hour, the politeness increased. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood before the full Galactic Council. The deadline was 12 hours away. The Vrel had not withdrawn from Epsilon 3. Instead, they had reinforced their position and were now threatening to execute human hostages if any military action was taken against them. Hyunwoo carried no weapons. He carried only his datapad and a cup of tea. He had requested this special session to provide what he called educational context for the council members. Honored representatives, he began, his voice calm and measured. I wish to thank you for your time today. I know you are all very busy with important matters. I apologize for adding to your burdens. The council members shifted in their seats. Some looked uncomfortable. A few, like Krillinth, looked actively worried. Today I would like to discuss a topic that may seem academic, but I believe it is relevant to our current situation. I wish to talk about human language and how we discuss conflict. He activated his holographic display. It showed a word in several human languages. This is the word bombardment, he said. It comes from an ancient human weapon called a bombard. But before it meant military action, do you know what it meant? It meant to make a booming sound. To announce something loudly. It came from practices where visitors would announce their arrival. He changed the display. This word is deadline. Today it means a time limit, a final moment. But it originally came from a prison camp. It was a line drawn around the camp. If a prisoner crossed it, they would be shot. It was a polite way of marking boundaries. Cross this line and die. Several council members were now paying close attention. Ceasefire, Hyunwoo continued. A lovely word, isn't it? It sounds peaceful. But it only exists because firing was happening first. Armistice. A temporary stop to fighting. The word itself acknowledges that fighting is the default and peace is the pause. He took a sip of his tea. Humans developed something called the Geneva Conventions. Beautiful documents. They make war more civilized, more humane. They protect prisoners and civilians. They limit suffering. But notice, they don't prevent war. They just make rules for how to conduct it properly. Thaxel's hologram appeared in the council chamber. He was attending remotely from Epsilon 3. Is there a point to this history lesson, human? Or are you stalling? Hyunwoo smiled and bowed slightly toward the hologram. Commander Thaxel, I apologize for any confusion. I am trying to explain something important. You see, humans have fought many wars. We have learned to make warfare precise, legal, and documented. We created language around it. We created rules for it. We made it professional. He pulled up another display showing the messages he had sent to Thaxel over the past days. I have sent you 17 messages, Commander. Each one used specific legal terminology. Each one cited particular sections of Galactic Council law. Each one included precise language about proportional response, lawful military action, and appropriate force escalation. Empty words, Thaxel said. No, Commander. These are legal documents. They will be part of the historical record. When other species look back at this incident, they will see that humanity followed every protocol, cited every law, and gave every opportunity for peaceful resolution. This is what humans do before we act. Yunwu's voice remained perfectly calm, but something in his tone made the temperature in the chamber feel colder. I sent you a deadline, Commander. 72 hours to withdraw and release all civilians. That deadline expires in 11 hours and 43 minutes. The word deadline has a very specific historical meaning, as I mentioned. It comes from a line that, when crossed, results in death. He paused to let that sink in. I want to explain one more human custom. Honored representatives. When we know we must do something difficult, something violent, we become very polite first. We apologize. We thank people. We use formal language. This helps us maintain our dignity and humanity even when we must act in ways that are not humane. Krillinth spoke up. Ambassador, are you saying that human politeness is a warning? Not exactly, Hyunwoo said. It is both a warning and a promise. We are promising that if action becomes necessary, it will be done professionally, legally, and with minimal excess. We are warning that we have already made our decision and are now simply being courteous about it. He turned back to Thaxel's hologram. Commander, I must inform you that in 10 hours, if human civilians are not released and your forces have not withdrawn, humanity will engage in what we call a proportional response. This response has been carefully calculated according to Galactic Council law, specifically sections 445B through 445Z, which outline lawful military intervention in hostage situations. You threaten me with legal citations? Thaxel laughed. You truly are weak. I am providing documentation, Commander, not threats. Threats are what you made when you attacked our colony. What I am providing is formal notice required under law before any military action. Everything I have done is legal, appropriate, and properly documented. Hyunwoo pulled up another display. This one showed military codes and communication protocols. I wish to note for the historical record that all human military communications regarding this situation have shifted to what we call formal protocol language. This is an ancient tradition. When our military officers begin using old-style formal communication, it indicates that combat operations are imminent. Dong Ha, a cryptographer from Human Intelligence, was watching from the observation deck. He had been monitoring Vrel communications, trying to find any sign they understood the danger. There was nothing. They completely missed the significance of the linguistic shift in human military channels. He sent a message to Admiral Su Jin. They don't understand. They think formality means hesitation. Admiral Su Jin sat on the bridge of her flagship, the carrier Incheon. Around her, 70 warships waited in perfect formation. Every weapon was ready. Every crew member was at their station. Every system had been checked 3 times. She had received her orders in the traditional formal style. The language was so old and ceremonial that she'd had to look up some of the terms. But the meaning was clear. If the deadline expired without Vrel compliance, she was authorized to use whatever force was necessary to resolve the situation. The orders included 17 pages of legal justifications, citations of Galactic Council law, and documentation of diplomatic failures. They also included precise rules of engagement. Avoid civilian casualties, minimize infrastructure damage, accept surrender immediately if offered, provide medical aid to wounded enemies, professional, precise, proper. On Epsilon 3, the human hostages remained calm. Sunhee, the older woman, had been teaching some of the younger prisoners meditation techniques. Stay calm, she told them. Help is coming. When it does, stay down and don't interfere. A young man named Wu Jin asked, How do you know help is coming? Sunhee smiled. Because they've been too quiet. The Galactic Council would be making more noise if humanity had accepted this situation. The silence means decisions have been made. Now they're just being professional about the implementation. Wu Jin didn't understand, but he trusted her. Sun He had been a military officer once long ago. She knew how these things worked. Colonel Unji was running final checks with her Special Forces team. They had rehearsed the hostage extraction 70 times in simulation. They knew every corridor of the colony complex. They had timed every movement down to the second. Remember, she told her team, we are professionals. Minimum force necessary. Civilians are the priority. Enemy combatants who surrender are to be treated according to the Geneva Conventions, which the Galactic Council incorporated into their own laws. We document everything. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jae Sung, nodded. Colonel, what if they fight to the last? Then we accommodate their choice, Yunji said simply. But we give them every opportunity to surrender first. We're not here to kill. We're here to extract our people and enforce Galactic Council law. Back in the council chamber, Hyunwoo was concluding his presentation. Honored representatives, I have explained the human approach to warfare because I believe many of you have misunderstood our recent behavior. Politeness does not mean weakness. Formality does not mean hesitation. Apologies do not mean surrender. In human culture, these things often mean the exact opposite. He looked directly at Thaxel's hologram. Commander, I am being very polite to you right now. I am using formal language. I am apologizing for misunderstandings. I am thanking you for your time. In human terms, this means I have already made my decision about what happens next. Now I am simply being professional about it. Thaxel's expression finally changed. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. 11 hours, Hyunwoo said softly. That is how much time remains. I sincerely hope you use it wisely. I apologize for any confusion my previous communications may have caused. The session ended. The countdown continued. The deadline expired at exactly 0600 hours Galactic Standard Time. For 3 minutes, nothing happened. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Representatives from dozens of species watched their displays, waiting. Then Admiral Sujin's voice came over the official channel, broadcast to the entire council. This is Admiral Sujin of the Human Defense Fleet. Under the authority granted by Galactic Council Regulations 445B through 445Z, and following the proper diplomatic protocols as documented by Ambassador Hyunwoo, humanity will now engage in lawful military action to secure the release of civilians held at Epsilon 3. We apologize for any disruption this may cause to regional stability. We will provide regular updates throughout this operation. Her voice was calm, professional, and absolutely certain. The first wave hit the Vrel positions 3 minutes later. It wasn't random. It wasn't excessive. It was surgical. Human fighters swept through Vrel defensive positions with devastating precision. Every target had been mapped weeks in advance. Every shot was calculated. The Vrel military installations on Epsilon 3 simply ceased to exist within the first hour. But the residential areas where civilians, both human and Vrel, were located remained completely untouched. Not a single stray shot hit those zones. Thaxel stood in his command center watching his defenses collapse around him. His tactical officer was shouting reports, each one worse than the last. Western defense grid destroyed, northern installation gone. They're jamming all our communications except this one channel. That's when Thaxel understood. They had left one channel open on purpose. They wanted him to see what was happening. They wanted him to know exactly how thoroughly he had misjudged the situation. Ambassador Hyunwoo's voice came through that single open channel. Commander Thaxel, I must apologize for this unfortunate necessity. Please be advised that civilian areas are not targeted. Your military installations are being neutralized according to our proportional response calculations. If you wish to surrender, please respond on this channel. We will accept immediately and provide medical assistance to your wounded. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The politeness was somehow more terrifying than any battle cry could have been. On the Incheon's bridge, Admiral Sujin monitored the operation with absolute focus. Every ship captain reported in using the formal protocol language. Every action was documented in real time. Taemin, the young archivist, was recording everything from his station on the flagship. Target package Alpha neutralized. 0 civilian casualties. Proceeding to target package Beta. Acknowledged. Medical team standing by for enemy wounded. Remind all units accept any surrender immediately. Captain Ji-won commanded one of the destroyer groups. Her ships moved through Vrel space like a carefully choreographed dance. Her weapons officer called out targets and she approved each one personally. Vrel Military Supply Depot. Confirmed military only. Minimal collateral risk. Approved fire. The depot exploded. G1 immediately ordered. Drop medical supplies and fire suppression equipment at the site. Broadcast surrender terms in Vrel language. This was repeated at every target. Destroy the military asset, then immediately offer humanitarian aid. It was efficient. It was precise. It was professional, and it was utterly devastating to Vrel morale. Meanwhile, Colonel Unji's Special Forces team had already landed on Epsilon 3. They moved through the colony complex like ghosts. Vrel guards didn't even see them coming. Lieutenant Jae Sung led the point team. He had a simple rule: give every enemy combatant one chance to surrender, just one. If they took it, they were treated as prisoners of war according to all the rules. If they didn't, he did what was necessary with minimal force. The first guard he encountered raised his weapon. Jae Sung spoke in perfect Vrel language. Drop your weapon. You will not be harmed if you surrender. This is your only warning. The guard hesitated. Jae Sung waited exactly 3 seconds, the time allowed under the rules of engagement. The guard dropped his weapon. Thank you, Jae Sung said, and meant it. He secured the guard with restraints and moved on. At the main detention area, Sun Hee heard the sounds of fighting in the distance. Then closer, then right outside. She gathered the other hostages and moved them to the center of the room away from the walls. Everyone down, hands visible. Don't interfere with the soldiers when they come. How do you know? Wu Jin started to ask. The door exploded inward. 3 human Special Forces soldiers entered, weapons ready. They swept the room in seconds, confirming all hostages were accounted for. Colonel Yoonji entered behind them. She bowed to Sun Hee. Ma'am, we're here to extract you. Are you or any of the others injured? No, Colonel. We're all unharmed. The Vrel actually treated us reasonably well. Good. Please note that for the record. Yoonji gestured to Tai Min, who had accompanied the rescue team specifically to document everything. All hostages appear healthy and report adequate treatment. The extraction took 23 minutes. Not a single hostage was harmed. The Vrel guards who surrendered were secured and left with medical supplies and water. The ones who fought were dealt with efficiently. As they were leaving, Unji stopped at one of the secured Vrel guards. She gave him a data pad. This contains instructions for surrender in your language. It explains where your wounded will be taken for treatment and how prisoners of war will be handled according to Galactic Council law. We apologize for any discomfort during your detention. The Vrel guard just stared at her. A human had just destroyed their defensive positions, extracted all hostages without losing a single person, and was now apologizing for the inconvenience. The operation continued for 72 hours. Every Vrel military installation in the sector was systematically neutralized. Every civilian area was protected. Every wounded enemy received medical care. Every prisoner was treated according to the rules, and every single action was documented. Hyun Woo provided updates to the Galactic Council every 6 hours. His reports were detailed, formal, and apologetic. I regret to inform the Council that engagement at Sector 7G resulted in the destruction of 3 Vrel warships. We offered surrender terms before firing. They were refused. We apologize for the loss of life. On the 3rd day, the Vrel military command structure simply collapsed. Thaxel, isolated in his damaged command center, finally understood what had happened. The humans hadn't been weak. They had been professional, and professional humans were far more dangerous than angry ones. He opened the surrender channel that the humans had politely provided. This is Commander Thaxel. I request terms of surrender. Admiral Sujin's response came within seconds. Surrender accepted, Commander. Please transmit locations of all your wounded. Medical teams are standing by. You and your officers will be treated according to Galactic Council prisoner of war protocols. Thank you for your cooperation. No gloating. No threats. Just professional acknowledgement. The fighting stopped immediately. Human ships began broadcasting medical assistance offers. Sung Hee, a combat medic, landed at the largest Vrel casualty collection point within an hour. She treated Vrel wounded with the same efficiency she would treat humans. A Vrel soldier asked her, "Why do you help us?" "We tried to kill you." Sung Hee didn't look up from her work. "Because the fighting is over. Now we're just doing our jobs. It's not personal." That phrase would be repeated throughout the Galactic Council for years afterward. It's not personal. Humans could fight viciously, then immediately switch to helping their enemies the moment surrender was offered. It wasn't mercy, it was professionalism. Captain G1's ships established a blockade around Vrel space, but they didn't attack further. Instead, they broadcast offers of humanitarian aid, transmitted in perfect Vrel language. They also played music, classical human music, symphonies and traditional pieces. It was oddly peaceful, this music playing over military communication channels. Ambassador Hyun-woo delivered his final report to the Galactic Council. Honored representatives, I am pleased to announce that all human civilians have been recovered safely. Vrel military forces have surrendered. Casualty figures are as follows: 0 human civilian deaths, 12 human military casualties, estimated 4,000 Vrel military casualties. All wounded receiving appropriate medical care. We deeply regret the loss of life and are prepared to assist with recovery efforts. He paused, then continued. I wish to emphasize that humanity attempted every possible diplomatic solution before resorting to military action. The documentation is complete and available for review. We believe our response was proportional and lawful under Galactic Council regulations. We are prepared to assist the Vrel Concordat in rebuilding and establishing more positive relations going forward. Thaxel, now a prisoner but treated with dignity, watched the report from his detention facility. The facility was clean, climate-controlled, and staffed with medical personnel. The guards were professional but not cruel. He had been given legal representation and access to communication. He realized too late what the humans had been trying to tell him with all that politeness. They weren't threatening. They were warning. They weren't showing weakness. They were showing that they had already made their decision and were giving him every chance to avoid it. The more politely they spoke, the more ready they were to act. 1 year after what became known as the Epsilon Incident, the Galactic Council reconvened for a special session. The topic was unprecedented. The Vrel Concordat was formally requesting to become a protectorate under human supervision. Ambassador Hyun-woo sat at the human delegation table, now promoted to Director of Human Affairs for the Galactic Council. Across from him sat a new Vrel representative, Commander Vexthor, who had replaced Thaxel after the former commander retired to a quiet farming world. Vexthor stood to address the council. His voice was respectful, almost careful. Honored representatives, the Vrel Concordat wishes to formally request human oversight of our military restructuring and diplomatic training. We have learned a valuable lesson, one that cost us dearly. We wish to ensure we never misunderstand another species so catastrophically again. It was an extraordinary moment. The Vrel had been one of the galaxy's most aggressive military powers. Now they were asking humans, the species they had attacked, to help them reform. Krylanth had been busy during that year. The insectoid diplomat had written extensively about the incident, documenting everything he had learned about human behavior. His work had grown into a full book, one that was now required reading at the newly formed Galactic Diplomatic Academy. The title was simple and direct. The more politely they speak, the faster you should run. Guide to Surviving Humans. Krylanth stood before a class of young diplomats from 20 different species. The classroom was filled with students taking notes, their various appendages writing or typing or clicking data into their recording devices. Today, Krylanth began, we will discuss the Epsilon incident and what it teaches us about human communication patterns. Please open your text to Chapter 3, Interpreting Human Courtesy as a Threat Assessment. The students opened their books. One of them, a young Phalid named Sarkish, raised a paw. Professor Krylanth, I don't understand. How can politeness be a threat? Krylanth's translator conveyed his clicking speech. Excellent question. For most species, increased politeness indicates comfort and friendliness. For humans, it can mean the exact opposite. Let me explain the pattern. He activated a holographic display showing Ambassador Hyun-woo's messages to Thaxel, arranged in chronological order. Notice the progression. The first message is firm but relatively casual. By the third message, formality increases. By the fifth message, we see what humans call excessive courtesy. Multiple apologies. Elaborate thanks. Detailed legal citations. This is not weakness, this is a human making peace with what they believe they must do next. He pulled up another example. This is from an ancient Earth conflict. A letter from one nation to another before declaring war. Count the polite phrases. 14. Count the expressions of regret. 8. Count the thanks for previous correspondence. 6. This was written hours before. Massive military action. Sarkish looked confused. But why? Why not just threaten directly? Because, Krillinth explained, humans need to live with themselves after conflict. They have strong emotional responses to violence, so they create professional distance through formal language. They document everything to prove they tried all alternatives. They apologize to maintain their sense of dignity and humanity. The politeness is partly for their enemies, but mostly for themselves. He moved to the next section of the lesson. Let me teach you the warning signs. If a human uses your formal title repeatedly instead of your name, danger. If they start citing legal codes, danger. If they apologize more than twice in one message, danger. If they offer you tea or food during a tense situation, extreme danger. The students were frantically taking notes. This was not what any of them had expected about humanity. The species known for its emotional outbursts and passionate speeches. Most important, Krillinth continued, if a human switches from casual to formal language during a conflict, they have made their decision. They are no longer negotiating. They are now simply being professional about implementation. Back at the Galactic Council, the Vrel Protectorate request was approved unanimously. The Council recognized that the Vrel had genuinely learned from their mistake. More importantly, they had learned that human strength came not from aggression, but from professional discipline. Admiral Sujin had retired from active fleet command and now ran the Human-Alien Military Cooperation Program. Former enemies were learning human military doctrine, including the emphasis on rules of engagement, proportional response, and treatment of prisoners. Captain Jiwan taught classes on tactical operations. Her students included Vrel officers who had fought against her during the Epsilon incident. The first day of class, one of them asked her, "Captain, do you hate us for what we did?" Jiwan considered the question carefully. No. You made a strategic error based on incomplete cultural understanding. We corrected that error. Now we move forward. That's how professionals handle conflict. It was that simple for humans. Fight when necessary, stop when the enemy surrenders, help rebuild afterward. Never mention it again unless necessary for education. Colonel Yunji ran advanced training for special forces from multiple species. She taught the human approach, minimum necessary force, maximum precision, complete documentation, immediate acceptance of surrender, professional treatment of all parties. The goal, she told her students, is never to enjoy the fighting. The goal is to resolve the situation as efficiently and humanely as possible, then return to peace. If you start enjoying combat, you failed professionally. Young-Soo was a new generation human diplomat, fresh from Earth and eager to learn. Ambassador Hyunwoo had taken him as a student. On Young-Soo's first day, Hyunwoo gave him a simple lesson. Watch how I speak to different people, Hyunwoo said. When I'm casual and friendly, joking and using first names, that means I trust them. We have good relations. When I become formal, when I start using titles and proper procedures, that means I'm concerned about the relationship. I'm creating professional distance, but what if you're extremely formal? Young-Soo asked. Then I've already decided the relationship has failed, and I'm documenting that failure for the record. At that point, I'm no longer trying to fix things. I'm preparing justification for what comes next. Young-Soo understood. So politeness is armor? Politeness is many things, Hyunwoo corrected. It's armor, yes. It's also a warning, a promise, and a way to maintain dignity. Never underestimate the power of being professionally polite, especially when others expect anger. The Galactic Diplomatic Academy held its first graduation ceremony. Krillinth stood at the podium addressing the new diplomats. You have spent 2 years learning to communicate with humans and other species. You understand now that humans are not the aggressive warriors many believed. They are professional fighters. There is a critical difference. He gestured to several human guests in attendance, including Hyunwoo, Jiwan, and Yunji. These humans will joke with you, share meals, become genuine friends. They are capable of great warmth and emotion. But if you threaten their people, if you break agreements, if you push them to the point where diplomatic solutions fail, They will become very polite. And that is when you should remember the title of your textbook. The graduates laughed nervously. They had all read the stories. They had all studied the Epsilon incident. They understood Hyunwoo was invited to give the closing address. He approached the podium with a cup of tea, which made several students smile nervously. "Don't worry," he said, setting down the tea. "I'm not being threatening. I actually just like tea." The audience relaxed. That was lesson 1. Context matters. "I want to tell you something important," Hyunwoo continued. "Everything you've learned about human politeness and formality is true. We do use courtesy as a warning system. We do become more formal when preparing for conflict. This is all accurate," he paused. "But I want you to understand why. Humans have fought terrible wars. We have done horrible things to each other throughout our history. We learned that if we are going to fight, we must have rules. We must have procedures. We must maintain our humanity even when doing inhuman things. The politeness, the formality, the documentation, these things help us live with ourselves. They prove we tried everything else first. They show we followed the rules. They demonstrate that violence was the last resort, not the first choice." He looked around at the diverse faces watching him. "So yes, if a human becomes very polite during a conflict, you should be concerned. But you should also know that we genuinely want peace. The formality means we've exhausted all peaceful options and are regretfully moving to the next stage. We give every possible warning because we genuinely hope you'll listen." After the ceremony, Hyunwoo, Krillinth, and several other diplomats gathered for an informal dinner. Thaxel was there too, having been invited as a guest lecturer to discuss his mistakes from the Vrel perspective. The former Vrel commander spoke quietly with Hyunwoo. "Ambassador, I wish to apologize again for my actions during the Epsilon incident. I cost thousands of Vrel lives because I didn't understand your warnings." Hyunwoo poured tea for both of them. "Commander, you made a decision based on the information you had. You couldn't have known our cultural patterns. That's why Krillinth wrote the guide so others won't repeat your mistake." "The guide helped?" Thaxel asked.